Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Welcome aboard on this Monday Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, of course. Brought to you by the great folks, Vandy Moore Honda Bloomington. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. Looking forward to getting started today as Charlie Miller will join us. Lots to talk about. Indiana baseball is still atop the Big Ten standings as they have a great weekend. Men's soccer, they will continue their quest for title number 9 today in the quarterfinals against Seton Hall. I can't even read my own writing. Football visits return. We've got a guy scheduled to visit Indiana next month, and those are starting to come back. There was the Rivals 150 camp in Indianapolis over the weekend. We're going to have a discussion when Charlie joins us. I hate this discussion. I'm going to tell you, it drives me. I'm so sick because it's a fan discussion, and I'm going to do it once and once only. This names on the jerseys crap. I'm so done because the bad thing is I know how most of the comments are going to be here. Oh, it's tradition. I don't give a crap about tradition. It's not about what's the tradition. But that doesn't mean I'm for that. But I will probably blow the argument out of the water. The argument is not the argument, but it's just fun to do. What do you want to talk about? Hit us up with anything you'd like to talk about as well. Golf, Rory McIlroy returns to Victory Circle over the weekend. Bryson DeChambeau left, thought he missed the cut. Went home to Dallas and had to hurriedly get back with a late-night jet flight, which he did and tied for 9th, made $228,000. So not a bad mistake to make as he tied for 9th there. Men's baseball continues, like I said, as they're trying to get towards the end of the season, NCAA tournament. Their prospects did not look good not that long ago. But, man, they've turned it. They've stayed at it, and they're at the top of the league now. So Mercer has got them turned around. I thought it would take just a minute, but in a season like this, getting that turned around sometimes is hard to do. But they're leading the Big Ten, 23-10 overall. That's nearly 70%. So let's see. Now this weekend they were up in Piscataway, but they had a double with Nebraska and Wisconsin, or Rutgers and Nebraska. They won 3 out of the 4 up there. They took both from Rutgers. The second one against him was in extra innings, but then they beat Nebraska 4-2 yesterday on a absolute great performance by Gabe Bierman. Complete game. Best performance of his career. He's rolling. He's getting better as the season goes along, which is what you want to see a pitcher do. But this kid's been through a lot. Happy to see him rolling right now, man. But a complete game victory. That's the first one for Indiana, I think, Paulie Milto in 2018, I believe. But great job for him. Soccer today, I can't remember if that's 5 or 6 p.m. You'll have to hit that up. We'll find that in a second. But the third round, quarterfinals of the men's soccer. Indiana taking on Seton Hall. It has not been an easy path so far for them. They had to come from behind in their last game, and the game before that, PKs, Big Ten championship PKs. But sometimes that's what tests your mettle and gets you going. We'll see. Let us know what's going on with you. What are some of the things that you'd like to talk about today? What went on over the weekend? NASCAR. Looking forward to talking about that. I kind of want to wait for Charlie to show this clip. I cannot believe I have never seen. I watch everything, and I record the races and watch them at night. I still didn't get to finish last night's race because luckily I fell asleep, but they did show a clip that I have never seen, a wreck of Richard Petty's. And You want to talk about nuts. If you watch NASCAR or anything, that the safety protocols that have been put in place, the features, everyone wears a closed helmet now, the head and neck restraint, so the head can't move. The seats that they're in does not allow their heads to move. They just are still. They can't hardly move. Eric Almirola took a shot last night that probably would have killed someone 30 or 50, 20 years ago. You would think. It was just it bent the car in half where it was. And then his teammate did the exact same thing later. But they showed a clip of a crash Richard Petty had there in 1970, which I cannot believe I had not seen this wreck. It's horrific. Now they have what's called safer barriers in NASCAR. They're about 4 feet wide, and in between those walls is cushion that allows that outside wall to collapse, absorb the energy. The cars are designed to absorb the energy as well. It's just crazy. Back then, nope, none of that. They had nothing. And he hit a concrete wall doing whatever speed he was doing. And you know what else they didn't have? Window nets. No window nets. I'm going to wait till Charlie joins us to finish that, I guess. But what do you think, John? Should I wait for Charlie to finish that, or am I too far in to not finish the story?
I think it's a good little teaser. I think you should wait for Charlie.
All right. Well, we'll tease. But let's see. Hitting up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline, Dwayne says, hey, guys, Jesse's on. Tony, he would prefer. Yeah, and I'm definitely going to get more into this discussion, but we can have this one now, too, about the names. But Tony says, I'm going to put it up. Make sure if you're not listening, if you're on radio, you can also listen to us on YouTube or watch us on YouTube. Just Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Go there and sign up, hit the clicker. Tony says, I would still prefer no names on the jerseys, but it's not going to cause me to bail if they decide to do it. Oh, my God. There's a common sense person. I could just stop right there. That's showing common sense. I don't even care what his next sentence says. By that, what I mean is he can go either way with his opinion because he's already laid out that he's being a common sense, level-headed person. Do you know how many times that just doesn't happen? Thank you, Tony, for that. I honestly wonder, though, what would that be a deciding factor for a kid joining a team? Exactly. I love this point. And if it is, I don't want that kid. If that's what his concern is, it's not basketball. It's not his team. It's not his grades. If that's what his concern is, he's more concerned about his brand. Well, then go to a Nike school. Or a branded school, I should say. But that's probably going to be the best comment I see today on that. To me, I don't give a crap about tradition. It has nothing to do with tradition. It's simply this. There's only 13 guys. If you cannot remember who 13 guys are, then that's your problem. To me, it's only 13 guys. It's a necessity to have names on jerseys. Bill Veeck started names on jerseys, the owner of the Chicago White Sox baseball team, because you couldn't see them. He did it to sell programs so the fans would know who their guys were because they're freaking 100 yards away, not basketball floor lit. Different football, different deal. You cannot see these players. They're double numbered on top of that. They're too far away. Helmets, blah, go on and on and on. No, I don't care. Basketball, no, I don't. Nope. I say no to the names, but not for the reasons a lot of you are. It's not needed. It's just not needed. It's clutter. You've got the 5 stars back there and the IU. It's fine with me. Leave it the way it is. But not because it's tradition, just because it makes sense. Tradition, my butt. It's only a tradition because they haven't done it. So it probably saved them money at some point, and that's how it became tradition. So that's just kind of funny. That's my take on that. So let me find that's Tony again. What does it say about what does it say about a recruit that says, I really love coach program, but I just can't come let you put my blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's what we said. Sean, here you go, Jim. While we hit names on the jerseys, let's hit taboo subject number 2, moving the students at Simon Scott around the perimeter of the floor. Wow, what a great point. Charlie, I got to get Charlie on here for this, man. He's joining us here starting in the next segment, but we're going to come back and visit these. That's Sean. That is a great one. Student section. Yeah. IU has the largest student section in college basketball. Over 7,000 seats allotted to students. Sometimes it's been a good thing. Sometimes it's been a bad thing. The only bad thing it's been, I don't like how today's students, there's Charlie, and we're going to be able to come back. And Charlie, glad you joined. We got some great topics to talk about this morning. How are you, sir?
Awesome. How you guys doing?
Cannot complain. It's Monday, and we're rolling, man. Plenty of stuff to talk about. Indiana baseball is leading the Big Ten. It's continued. They still lead the Big Ten. 3 out of 4 wins this weekend.
Yeah.
In soccer, quarterfinals today.
Yeah.
Football visits have started. Going to throw a curveball at you. We're going to do a little bit of NASCAR. I was watching the Darlington race last night, and I saw this clip of a crash from 1970 of Richard Petty, who was like one of the biggest names. And I'm like, how does he survive this crash? It was like the most horrific crash I've ever seen. But there's more to this story. That story.
Okay.
And right now we're talking about names on jerseys.
Yeah.
And the student section at IU. So we got a lot of great stuff to talk about, man. So looking forward to that. Golf yesterday. Rory McIlroy got back on the winning train there. How was your weekend? Did you have a tournament anywhere? Can't remember.
Yeah. We actually, my ladies, the girls played, and they won. It wasn't really a tournament. A couple of teams dropped out, so we won our 2 games. So we actually we won 11 straight games. I mean, so all the times we played in thus far, we won. It's a testament to the other development. I mean, the only credit I take is really helping them come together as one. And just that's my credit. and they're doing their work on the court, right? Players play, coaches coach. So it's been pretty good to watch. I've been with these young ladies for a couple of years, so to see where we first started to where we are now, again, I mean, everybody's getting better. I mean, including myself. So that's what I love about it.
Sounds great. Sounds like a modest man, though. We're going to talk about that more and plenty of everything else when we come back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by NMO Honda right after this. Hey, Hoosier fans, whether you're looking for those are great subjects, man. And I got to thank Sean and Tony for both of those, especially that second one. I hadn't thought of that,
but I wanted to talk on air about the Yeagley. Think about, the father was the coach when I was in school, and that's 30 something plus years of legacy.
Unbelievable.
But not only the wins, but the way they've been after to go, the way they've been marketable throughout the elite level talent. And what I want to talk about is the attributes, right? Like that to me, like if I'm Fife, if I'm Coach Woodson, I'm going to Todd's office and say, hey, how have you done this? I don't care the sport. What have you done? What are you guys saying to continue to get top talent for 30-something plus years to always be considered? And again, because IU is more of a basketball, now football, men's driven, those sports really will drive the nut. It's like, man, how are you guys doing that? And what can we pick from that?
And let me tell you, and one other thing, they do it without international players.
Well, I know when I was in school, they had a couple that moved
and they might have one
right.
I mean, you see kids from Indiana. I'm like, going, what?
Right.
There was a kid on there a couple of years ago that's from Corridon that I'm from. I'm like, wait a minute. How in the hell is there a kid from Corridon, Indiana on this damn soccer team?
Yeah, and what, there's something else I think we'll cover probably a segment or two as we discuss this, is the way soccer goes about it at the youth level. See, they're organized, Jim. Soccer's organized, man. I'm not, basketball saying basketball's not, but soccer and volleyball, you have to be certified to coach. There's so many hours you have to put in to coach. Even to play, you got to play futsal first, right? You got to learn how to move, cut, on a small field before you go to the big field. So there's a whole organizational flow that by the time you get to college and pro, you belong. You've mastered your skills.
And Forrest points out that when he was in school, which is the early 70s, soccer at Indiana was a club sport.
Right.
They took it from a club sport, within a couple of years and won a freaking national championship.
That's my whole point. And so I want to get into mine, Coach Yeagley, what are you doing?
Hey, we're coming back. Oh, sorry to interrupt. We're coming back.
It's all right.
More. Plan for your future. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sillersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Monday, it's here. Charlie Miller is as well. So am I. Jim Coyle.
Well, Jim, you said I was being modest, so I won't be modest, man. So this
Dang!
I know, right? This is what they picked up a couple weeks ago, and last week they won. They just gave the girl medals, but this is a pretty nice trophy, man.
Dude, that's a BA trophy.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
So I was like, I'm not gonna be modest. I'm gonna share.
That's what you're doing, and that's why you have to show that. That's right. The results. Those are the fruits of the labor. Those are the fruits of what you preach.
That's right. That's right.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you talk about Yankees, and I'm always able to get them on. They're using this time of day, unfortunately, to train for the last several weeks, and they've stayed in that routine.
Of course.
And so, but I really wanted to get him back on, which I hope we don't have to wait till after the season, but maybe we will be able to do something once they go if they make it to the College Cup. That may change their schedule. I don't know. We'll see, but work to get Coach on live as soon as possible. All right. Names on basketball jerseys.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about it from a tradition standpoint. I don't care because, like I said, the tradition, nobody knows why it even started. It probably started because they saved money by not putting the names on it. But there are certain sports that are just absolute need. Baseball, football, those types of sports. It's better. It's just easier. You can't see the players. But as far as a reason for a kid, because now you've got them, some of them are putting their Twitter handles on their jerseys. And oh yeah, that's a thing now. Oh yeah, at whatever, that's a thing now. And it's nuts. But I say no, because not to do with tradition. It's clutter. The Indiana uniform looks nice. There's only 13 guys. If you don't know who those 13 guys are, you're not a fan of Indiana basketball. You've got the 5 stars and the IU right there. That's it. If you don't know who those 13 guys are, then you're not a fan of IU basketball, and then you can go use Google. Find out who they are. That's my deal on that.
And I've always said on a basketball court, hey, you know who made the mistake? It's only 5 guys. You know who made the play. I mean, if you need to see the name, then I'm with you on that. I don't.
You know what? That's funny you say that, because every time somebody does something bad or something, like, nobody seems to have a problem remembering who was that.
Hey, listen, man, it's 5 guys. I'm for real. It's like, man, it's 5 of us. It's like, my bad. We know it's your bad.
Yes.
It's only 5 of us on the court, right? So like one of those things where, not even from, again, playing at IU, the tradition of not having names on jerseys. Who knows why? Again, like you just said, it could have been a budgetary reason why, and then a coach could say, hey, this is why we're not doing it. We all buy into that narrative. But I mean, I don't know if it really makes that much of a difference. But I think in today and age of this likeness, this image likeness,
that's where the discussion is actually coming in.
So I can see a player say, hey, I want my name on my jersey, because you know, the I would say the quasi argument would be when we were in college. So if someone wears a number 3 jersey, you know, whatever. It's like, oh man, you know, not saying why I'm not making money from that. That wasn't the case. But like, okay, that could be Jay Edwards. That could be me. Now it can move on to
I'll be honest with you. When I think of 3, Jay
Coverdale.
Edwards is the first name that comes to mind.
Right, exactly.
But that's
exactly.
because that was my era,
Right.
though.
But that's okay. But I'm okay with that, right? And you know, a good friend of mine who went to Kentucky, I saw a kid wearing a number 3 jersey. He wore number 3. And I was like, man, he got your jersey on, but he went right to, man, that's Rex. You know, so like he deflected with that's Rex, no, but it didn't say anything on the back of it. I know that number as my good friend, right? So anyway, that's kind of one of the things I would say. You got, I mean, that
Here's
likeness.
the argument. Think about a great photo of a dunk from behind.
Yeah.
And you've got, you know, at whatever is your name.
Right.
Because you're like, who was
That's
that making that play?
Right.
Oh,
right.
that's, yeah. But, you know,
Yeah.
Again, as I think back, I just don't know that I've ever had a problem knowing who a player was in a photo, man. You just know from from who they're guarding, blocking, whatever. You're like, oh, boom, that's bam. You just know.
And
so
it's not
I don't
like,
know.
you got to think about this too. It's not like also they're calling names when there's a penalty or when something's happening, man. That's why the announcers.
Well, it's basically going to come down to the name, image, likeness thing, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, that's what to me what I hear more so.
And that's going to be the problem that Indiana does, maybe, and that could be a problem that Indiana runs into. But I'm like, okay, it's a line to walk. Because
think about this.
You have to wonder. I don't want a kid thinking about his brand. I want him thinking about basketball, the team winning.
You just mentioned it. If there's a 4-star, 5-star, this player has a platform already built, Twitter, Instagram, and they're coming in with image likeness in mind and mentality. And this kid's on his way to go do whatever. And, you know, we want, and these setups, I wonder that discussion, do you have to be open to the discussion, especially if this kid can play, right? I mean, I know we're going off of, you know, what ifs, but, you know, that's what I feel it's going to come down to, you know, like image and then, you know, some type of compensation towards that, which this skews everything you think about college and what we know in tradition speaking.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be people who don't like that stuff, and with good reason. There's going to be arguments of both. It's just like class basketball in Indiana. That argument is not going to go away, and nor do I think it should. I hate it. I'll be honest with you. I understand it, but I hate it. I just I'm not going to get it. That's another discussion for another day. But let's see. Do you have players on this team come to IU in the future? What does that mean? Robert, I don't know what you're asking. Robert's the truth. Robert Carter there. I'm not sure what you're saying. Do you have players on his team? You. I think he's asked about you. You got anybody that you could maybe that's into your leagues or your AAU teams that could be a potential IU recruit in the future? Are you doing any boys teams?
Not right now. No, not right now. I wish. I mean, I would say
Jordan Halls does.
That's good. Yeah, that's because I mean that's the makeup of his group, right? The makeup of his group.
He's got up in Wisconsin, Leon Bond.
Yeah.
One kid. There's one kid up there.
Yeah, I would. I got one player. I think we talked about. You know, he's on his way to go play for Mike Davis. But you know, I just met him not too long ago. As far as training.
I would love to go up there with you sometime to Detroit and visit him.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's hard for you to get up the way, but man.
But no, I don't have any. Yet, I would say a yet thing, right? Not yet.
And that's
that was the case. We'd have been talking about that play a long time ago.
that takes development and time and all of that. But
I want to mention this too, Jim. There's a couple ways people come to you, right? It's one thing to be with somebody since like elementary school. Very rarely they're gonna stick around because everyone's picking and prodding at them to go play on their team and go do these things. So a lot of times, you know, nothing against it. You'll have players that are player ready, college ready, you know, that'll make AAU teams and, you know, that will be recruited by the IUs and the other schools like that of that nature. I'm saying you've been around them forever, I've been around a lot of these kids since they've been like in elementary. That's a big difference. So, you're seeing people grow up.
Absolutely. Well, you know them,
Right.
their deficiencies, their everything.
Exactly.
What they need help with,
Right.
where they excel,
Right.
their attitude, how to push them, how not to push them.
Right. That's right.
There's so many things.
Relationship, man. You get a chance to build that. So I get you.
Student section. Indiana basketball has the largest student section, 7,000 plus at Assembly Hall. Mostly in that section there when you walk in and going
right.
up. Then you got the band on one end, and that's pretty much it. So, but most places will seek the students around the court for an advantage. Indiana doesn't do that. They do the bigger donors, older, and it is. I think Indiana needs to change that. It's too much about the money. Indiana does not have a freaking problem with money. They've got all the money they need.
Yeah.
Especially now that McRobbie's leaving, they'll be much better off without him siphoning off all the athletic money. Mm-hmm. So I would like to see students in the end zones, and I'd like to see students closer to the floor. Not, no offense, I don't want to see an 82-year-old couple sitting there next to another 82-year-old couple and next to another. Just, you want energy and excitement.
That's right.
I mean, that's where it comes from. That's an advantage. That is an advantage. And if you don't think it's an advantage in that gym, you're nuts. That gym is different. And no one knows better. Why is that gym difficult, first of all, as an opponent? Why is it so difficult to play in when Assembly Hall is at its Assembly Hall zenith?
Yeah, like it's 18. What is it now? How many?
17-4, I think.
Okay, 17-4, right? So think about that. And in the majority of those seats, you're going to see pretty much a sea of red. You won't see a lot of other whatever team they're playing against. Like I met you when they played Penn State. And, Penn State typically – the guests will normally get a section, and that section will probably be right behind the bench. It's scattered, but you can't see, nor you can hear. And it's intimidating, especially when that place gets rocking. I mean, I got memory and chills right now, man, playing against Kansas my freshman year. You couldn't even hear yourself think because it was that loud. A three goes in, or a dunk happens, or someone takes a charge. It's intimidating. It's mind-boggling. It really is. And that's always the sixth man. Like Seattle has, the 12th man. That's always sixth man, the fan, right? And it gets quiet when Coach Knight would get on you. That's the only place I know would go from like 100 to 0 because they want to hear what Coach Knight is saying.
It was wild.
It gets quiet, right? But anyway, man, I want one other thing I want to talk about. Penn State, back before they had the new arena, they had pretty much like the hyper. I don't even know it's called the hyper anymore, right?
It is.
They pretty much had the hyper type building, and the students used to be right there next to the bench. I mean, yelling, all kind of things you can imagine. So, that's pretty intimidating because as a player, you're trying not to hear it, pay attention to it, but people yelling things at you. So to have the students on that floor near the action, I think is probably something that can give a slight edge.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's why it was. It's why it was one of the reasons why it has long been such a tough place to play. The last time Roy Williams was here, he was like, they got the crap kicked out of him. He was like, wow. He's like, man, I wish we had that kind of a crowd every night. He goes, gee whiz.
Hey, and he said he was a coach at Kansas back
exactly.
Yeah.
And Grayson Allen, when Duke was here last, talked about him. I talked to him after the game. He was like, when you have to use hand signals on the court, he goes, we're not used to that. And so, and they play in Cameron, which is a very, very
Small.
intimate setting.
Yeah.
9,000, but their students are all around.
Students are
And
right there.
man,
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, they are on
Yeah.
top of you.
Yeah.
Literally. They are on
Yeah.
literally on top of press row. And when I say
Yeah.
on top of, I mean they leave paint on the back of your clothes
Yeah.
because they are leaning on you. It's crazy.
Yeah, I
fun
sat in that section. Mike Schrage, remember we talked about him. He's at Elon now. He was the assistant coach when I was living in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I went to
You
the
gotta
game.
get him on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so you hear the crazies, man, and they're right there. So again, and think about that. A lot of these students, they go to these schools just for that atmosphere. Right, amongst other things, going to a school of business or whatever it might be, but the sports is a big deal, and being in an arena like that is huge.
Absolutely. And so, what would you like to, as a player? What would you like to? Where would you like to see the students? How would
Like to see the students on the visitors' side? Heck, just all
yes.
That's actually a question that I talk about, like, who should you talk about as a player if you're being interviewed? One, you're the fan, the student section. You need them hooting and hollering and getting under the skin. You need every advantage you can get, and that's the whole point of it.
Why is that not the case? Oh my gosh!
Right? But if I'm over there designing, hey man, y'all are sitting over there right by the bench. Y'all are over there, and I need you hooting and hollering with respect. Now you can't show respect, you gotta get kicked out. But you can say, don't cross that line.
Boom. They need to swap sides. That's a great idea. Swap sides. But see, these old student ticket holders want to be behind the bench. They want to sit by. They can't. They don't know it doesn't matter. Truth be told, it's just this thing.
Yeah.
No, you're moving. Students are going
I
here.
need you active. You're not just watching this game. I need you active.
Sorry, you've been fired.
That's right.
Reassigned.
Right.
But that's a great idea. I hadn't thought of that. Don't know why, but all you have to do is just swap sides. Exactly. Man.
Put them the section here, and then you get them over there in that corner, right? Where again, old school, where the coach's locker room used to be. Put them right over there, put them in that corner, and let it be so loud and just out of control. Where again, it just bothers. You're distracted.
I like it. I like it a lot.
I'm hoping somebody from IU is listening. If you want to understand strategy and have a 6-man, that's what you do. Get your student section involved. Get them involved.
You heard it from Charlie Miller. Get the 6th man involved. We'll have to send that over to Scott. We'll be back with more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Lots more in the Sports Beat Radio right after this.
Thinking about retirement? Make
good.
Hey man, think about that. 6, like how you see the 12th man shirt for Seattle.
Well, you keep saying Seattle. I can't, but Texas A&M actually is the 12th man.
Well, Seattle too.
I know, but they took it from Texas A&M.
There you go. Yeah, man.
Which is right by you, which is the only reason I find that funny.
Man, it's all still without apology, man. It's all the same stuff.
But Seattle but I think Seattle's probably is way louder.
Oh yeah.
They up in that. God, it's kind of like their deal is set up like Assembly Hall in a way.
Right, but think about also the psychology behind that, to what you've done with the fanfare, right? How you've locked them in to where they feel they're part of the group, the culture. You made them feel like they're a part of it, and that's the whole part to me. You make people feel like they're a part of the growth and the process of what you're doing.
And Assembly Hall used to be a daunting place just in name, but you have to keep winning, and that hasn't been the case. But I think that's about to change.
Yep.
It may not be the level that fans want this year, but it's going to be on the way, I think. It's certainly going to be exciting. I really believe that. I really believe that. Dude, I mean, I am serious. I keep saying that about Indiana's athletics. Baseball is leading the Big Ten. Soccer. Right. Yeah. I just keep going. I'm like, wow. I'm jacked about football.
Yeah. And I mean, again, look at what they've done.
I don't want to. All right, I'm gonna text it to you because I don't want to. It's a secret.
Okay.
I don't want to spill it on the air yet.
There we go.
No, I don't mind. I'm working on getting George Leach and Jeff Newton to come up for Cincinnati and Ohio State football games.
Okay.
That's the third game and like the seventh game.
Nice. Leach.
Those two games will be freaking. Cincinnati's a top 10 team.
Yeah.
Ohio State's a top 10 team.
Yeah.
Indiana should be a top 10 team. It'd be gigantic. But Newton and Leach come up. They're going to come up for like 4 days.
Wow.
Bring the trailer up, the Ooey barbecue trailer.
Yeah.
You ever had that?
I haven't. I heard about it.
Good stuff, man.
Coming back.
New 2021 Honda Accord LX front-wheel drive lease for just $270 a month. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. On this Monday, Charlie Miller sitting here with Jim Coyle. Oh, almost forgot. You know how I end my show every day by saying, do something nice for somebody, wear your mask,
That's right.
blah, blah, blah. This company out in California, somehow, I don't know how. But look at
Nice.
that, man.
Hey, man.
Golly.
That's the
I'm
way.
like, whoa.
You put out
But-
positivity. Positivity must come back.
I
man.
got to get one to you. But they also have some cool stuff. It's not, and it's licensed. This is just one. I told them to send me the other stuff.
Wow. Nice.
But this is
wow. That's good stuff there.
it is. It's good looking stuff,
Right.
really. I mean, it's not because it's normally it's not
No, it's that good mesh. It's good mesh.
yeah, it's not
material.
it's in the material. It's not like I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, it's
Right.
not coming off.
Yeah, it's not.
But
good
they've
stuff.
got I don't have that. I told them to send me one of each. They've got Assembly Hall, they've got Memorial Stadium,
Nice.
they've got an awesome picture of Kirkwood and the sample gates.
Okay, so you got some
I'm
IE.
like,
Yeah,
wow,
brands and
so-
stuff, man. That's good stuff.
but actually I gotta get one to you.
I appreciate it.
Here's the Hoosier.com actually.
Nice.
Wrong side.
Nice.
I can't believe how good they look. I'm like, they
Thank
did
you,
it.
man.
But we'll get their information up.
Got some fans, man. That's good stuff. That's beautiful.
Well, yeah, they're
That's good reach, man.
amazing things. But so wear your mask. We'll be doing that.
That's right.
But those numbers are going down. I was watching NASCAR last night, and the first thing I noticed, Jamie Little's and then pit reporter, and the other guy is then pit reporter, were not wearing masks for the first time, which I don't understand why TV people have been wearing masks the whole time anyway, because every time they're doing it, they're not around anybody. They're
Right.
outside. I'm like, dude, what is this, a show? So
Right.
at least they're not wearing masks anymore. And I don't mind wearing a mask from here to there. If that blah, 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 it's okay. But when you get to the spot, it's nice to not have to do that. So it was cool seeing that. But I was watching this race in Darlington last night, Charlie. Darlington, South Carolina.
Yep.
One of the famous tracks on the NASCAR circuit. Been around forever. Back to the old days, and there was a wreck. Today's safety is incredible. The walls, every wall now is a safer barrier. There's the main wall, and then there's another wall with about 3 feet in between of cushion that collapses if they hit it. That's a lot of energy absorbing. The cars are designed to absorb. The seats that they're in are completely different. The seat belting, full face shields, and the head and neck restraint that does not allow their head to snap forward, which is the killer. That's one of the ways how Dale Earnhardt died. He had none of that. But this crash yesterday, it bent the car. It hit so hard. But then there was another wreck that they showed that I was not aware of Richard Petty's back in 1970. And I'm like, I couldn't believe, first of all, I had never seen this. Secondly, that he survived.
Wow.
Not only survived, he's the all-time winning race leader in the history of NASCAR. But John, do you have that clip you can show?
That was Bobby Isaac, but there's been a crash on the home stretch. A car upside down.
And that's
A
Richard
blue
Petty.
car. It is Richard Petty. That looks like Richard's helmet sticking out of the car, and he certainly appears to be unconscious. The pit crew running out. The yellow flag, of course, is out. This could be a very bad accident to one of the best-known race drivers in the world. He actually cracked the wall, almost went all the way through it, and had he gone through that or slipped up over it, it could have been a real tragedy in the pit area.
Wow.
All right. Did you see how hard he hit that? That was concrete. And then do you see how he's laying out of the car at the end? And that red stuff? The TV people thought that was blood, that he was bleeding, and they said, pull back. And that's why you'll see the camera immediately pulls back away from the scene. It wasn't. Richard Petty would carry towels with him in his mouth for water, he said. He talked about, he said, everybody thought my guts were pouring out. Man, it's just my towels falling down. But they did not have those window nets. The very next week, his mom sewed a window net in his car to keep it. And now they're not designed to keep drivers in. They're designed to keep stuff out now.
Wow.
But that's how the window net first came to be. His mom sewed one, the all-time leading racer in NASCAR's mom sewed a net in his car because his arm flopping out of it on that wreck. That was nuts, though.
Yeah, that's typically how things are made, Jim, in this world. It takes a tragedy. It takes something catastrophic, and all of a sudden you got protocols. That's amazing. To even think his mom even thought about that.
I can't believe he survived that wreck.
Right. That was tough.
It was nuts.
What are you going? What, 180? What is he going? 180, 190?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're coming off the fast turn onto the stretch, man, off the turn into the straightaway.
Wow.
Into the straightaway, boy. And man, yeah. I just couldn't believe I hadn't seen that before either. That was yikes. Yeah, those guys were tough guys. All right. What else have we got going on? How was your weekend other than you had the tournament, but did you get to do any relaxing?
You know what? Not really, which is okay. I was in the gym yesterday pretty much since 9 o'clock, from like 9 until about 8 o'clock at night, which is a good thing. Not practices, that workout, skill sessions with younger kids. So, you know, it's a process. It's a part of the process, man. So that was my weekend. My wife, we kind of celebrated Mother's Day last night. You know, I got some flowers, kind of surprised her on Friday with that. The kids and I went to go get some cards for her. We filled out some cards, and, you know, so kept it simple, kept it real simple.
I had the great chance to, there was the Rivals 150 camp in Indianapolis. It was a Friday. Then my daughter had soccer in Evansville and prom in south of there, 30 minutes south of there. Saturday for pictures, back to Indianapolis for the Rivals camp. But Saturday was prom. It was awesome. So got to take some great photos and spend some time with the prettiest girl in the world. So I was happy about that. So that was good. Forrest likes the idea of having students behind the bench. Would make it tough for them to communicate. And during yes, it would. Trust me. I guarantee it. Tim asked
all the advantage you can get.
Tim asked, why did IU not have a spring football game? And I think that any of those schools that did, I'm going to guess, are in the South.
Yeah.
I would put a bet on that. Fans in the stands, if one school can have them, every school should be able to have them. Well, that will be by conference. Well, that's not true. We've seen the issues with Michigan, so it's not conference; it's state.
Oh yeah.
It's Monroe County. It's in this state. It's by county. This is one of the few counties now that is still they're treating it like a lockdown of sorts here still, but I'm pretty certain that might change in about any amount of days that the students are gone now. But yeah, this has still been on a lockdown of sorts. You cannot sit at things. I mean, you can go to restaurants and whatnot, but they've got everything's reduced still. But I was traveling. I had trouble getting food at local or down and drive-throughs. It was drive-through only everywhere. I'm like, dude, you're killing me with this.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is because having problem people work because everybody's at home getting unemployment. That's aggravating to me.
Right. Yeah.
Go out and work, man. If there's a job available, I think they should have to go work.
Yeah.
I don't want to get off on that. Let's see. Renata, Formula One, hated the modifications of the Halo, but watched the wreck with Roman, say how you say his name, Grosjean, and the only thing that saved him. Yep. Well, the NASCAR guys hated the Hans, which is the head and neck restraint system.
Mm-hmm.
It's a thing that it keeps their head here. They can't.
Right.
They can't barely move their head. So it probably was a really tough thing to get used to. But once you get used to it, it's probably relaxing, but it saves your life. It's what killed Dale Earnhardt. His head snapped forward. He had an open-faced helmet. He just wore his head snapped forward, and I think he hit the steering wheel. A lot of things like this. So all those things have changed for that reason. Davey Allison won a race after his crew had to tape his right hand to the shifter. Yeah, broke it. Yep, remember that. And he had 3 broken ribs. But cool stuff. But yep, that's the great thing about sports. I don't care what sport you're talking about. NASCAR, my sport was rodeo. It doesn't matter. Those guys competed because they didn't get paid if they don't win. Don't compete. That's right. And it didn't matter if you have broken ribs. It didn't matter if it didn't matter. You tape it up. You do what you got to do. But there's been those great stories of Willis Reed. You go back to Willis Reed and New York Knicks. I mean, Kirk Gibson and the LA Dodgers. I mean, those are just great stories that you love to see and retell and see on those great clips and to hear the calls of those stories. Reggie Miller with the, against the Knicks. I mean, just so many things that just jump out. I
watched the clip. I watched the clip of I was watching the IU Purdue game my freshman year at home, and Neil Reed, he actually dislocated his shoulder, and he was out there with a harness on that looks like football shoulders. I'm sure pads.
I remember that.
Neil handled the basketball like face grimacing. It would slip out all the time, but he played. I remember he lost the ball, dove on the ground, got the ball back up, stood up. So I just bring one close to home, and you just never know what that player or those people are going through. But that adrenaline's pumping so hard, right? But I know after those games, man, Neil would be in excruciating pain.
And I know he was a player.
Yeah.
He was a player. And obviously he's passed, and that's sadder as well. And all the stuff that happened after that is sad because I'm sure he loved playing for Indiana. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't there. You were there. And I know there were issues that happened. Obviously, we know there are issues that happen.
Right.
And the main issue with I wasn't there. Was it a choke or was it just a grab, just a stop? I mean, just putting a hands on someone. I mean, because I think back, I'm like, dude, I got an 8th grade story in football that makes that look like kiddie time.
Yeah.
And that story does not bother me. I turn that story on myself all the time.
Yeah. It was, a grab. It was a very aggressive grab. And you can only imagine that, like, if you get grabbed all of a sudden around your neck area, that the first thing you may be thinking is you're getting choked, right? And it was a grab, right? And even to go into, like, if you're okay with it, what even happened? It was an all practice. For some reason, Neil was going up to shoot the basketball, but then, like, the very last second was trying to pass the ball to people, and people were getting hit. So, like, you're going to rebound. Seriously, you're going to rebound, and he's trying to throw the ball last second, and Coach Knight, hey, call the name out, right? And it just kept happening. And I got instances when Coach Knight was calling Brian Evans like something else. It was funny. It was like serious. Like he was calling Brian Evans a whole other name the whole practice. Wow, what are you doing? Like everybody's laughing. But anyway, that's what happened. It was he was making plays. He was going up to shoot, and then he didn't want to shoot because somebody contested it. He'll throw the ball. And then Coach Knight just got upset. He got really upset and went up to him and grabbed him. Boom. Right. And you're looking like, okay, wow. Oh, okay, cool. That happened. But that really affected him way beyond I could realize, because that was my roommate. Him, me, and Andre lived together. That car ride home, we laughed about that. Because, Coach Knight did all kinds of stuff. We laughed about that. But Neil wasn't joking. He wasn't laughing. I didn't know the effects of it right until the next day you woke up and it was a storm. You know what I'm talking about, right? And it was just like, wow. It just took a whole nother turn to, now what he says versus what Coach Knight said. And, unfortunately, he's not here to defend himself. But that's all that happened. That's really what happened.
And that's what I saw, but that's why I'm like, okay, but I wasn't there. And so there could be, and as you said, it affected him differently because it would have affected me. How it did you? Because I remember being in the eighth grade or ninth grade, rather. I was a freshman in high school, and we were scrimmaging the eighth graders below us, and their coach had been our coach for the 3 previous seasons. And I was mouthing at some kid about clipping me. And he said, get your ass back in the huddle. And I said something smart. You tell him to quit effing clipping me and turn around and walk off. And buddy, let me tell you, I got about 2 steps. And the next thing I know, my head snapped and I'm on the ground. Yeah. And I go to get up and same thing, and go to get up and same thing. And it knocked the crap out of me 3 times. Yeah. And it made me so mad and embarrassed then. But, after all these years, what was the reason for that? Because you were a smart aleck. Right. First of all, you were a smart aleck to a coach on top of that.
Right.
You're a freshman in high school. You should have had that crap kicked out of you. You deserved everything I got. And I'm like going, but that was part of, and I'm not there playing a sport and I'm not going to complain about getting hit. No. But so, I was just curious. I hate how it happened, but.
Yeah, it was, and also, man, we were kind of like, we're in a different era. Now, I'm not trying to say like there was a transition effect, because that was like the norm growing up. Now, there were certain players you could do that to and certain players you can't, right? Certain players like, I can imagine if he did that to you, you just got better and tougher. And, you took responsibility because but the coach crossed the line, who knows? But that was accepted. Sorry, it was accepted for coaches to do things like that. Now, what Coach Knight did, who knows, right? And it's not necessarily controversy, but it happened, right? And unfortunately, he's not here to defend himself. But at the end of the day, lesson learned, man. There's ways to reach people. And my lesson to everybody about that is learning what not to do, not necessarily what to do.
And we've talked about there's each player, man, you have to reach them differently.
Yeah. Man, I've seen clipboards being broken and we all laugh about it over people's head. I've seen, players get grabbed. Again, these are all things that we laughed about. Like, again, it's one thing for it to happen because you're in that environment. Not saying you expect it, but it's like, oh, coach got at you today. Oh yeah, man, he really got. Because it was like that was a part of the culture. It was a part of it, right? But you don't realize the effects. Because I think Neil was the first player that I can honestly say I didn't realize how important mental health was in sports. That's what really did it. It wasn't that more so than what happened after Neil spiraled, man. And he was isolated. He felt alone. Yeah, man. Again, at 2019, you don't realize that because it's like, man.
Right. No, I get that, but I'm just, I didn't realize that happened.
What is that? Why you got to do that? Man, we're tough. It's like, man, it did something to him. It took him somewhere different. So he couldn't stay in Bloomington. Like what happened? He felt nobody had his back. Right? He felt alone. He felt, and I can't, and there's nothing to quantify that to, or compare that to, because again, I can say, man, he grabbed you. He didn't choke you. That wasn't me. Right? right? But that's going back to, again, as we talk about sports, it was different. It was just a different day and age, and what happens and how things happen. But anyway, just to kind of talk about, the toughness part of it. But that was the first time I ever thought about mental health in regard to sports.
How did it affect when and how did you see it affect the team?
Oh my God, man, dude, it affected. Again, when you live with somebody, it's a whole nother ballgame, right? It's one thing to see things on ESPN talked about when you live with somebody. He isolated himself, right? I mean, it was a total isolation. It was not going to class anymore because of embarrassment, because there were a lot of people who were like, hey, just suck it up. That's Coach Knight, and the coaches were not doing that at all. They were very serious about what happened. But he isolated himself. And again, as a young person, it's like, hey, leave him alone. He'll be all right. You talking to his parents, you talking to, girlfriend, he'll be all right. Just leave him alone. Give him space. But it was a total isolation. And all of a sudden he's transferring because he felt alone. And he had to go on medicine for that too. Like, again, these are things that I didn't understand that stuff. Why are you taking that? What is that stuff? These things to calm you down. I didn't understand that, but he had to. Right.
Yeah, and
that's the part, again, as a roommate. So it's one thing to talk about this, and I'm just, not to change the subject, but it's one thing to talk about this from like, you're not living with somebody. Like when this comes up, like, first of all, I was on 30 for 30, damn near 20 years ago. They did the guy who, Bob Abbott, he was with CNN, and I was the only person that spoke up, and I basically, said, was it right? No. Did he choke him? I don't know. But you don't put your hands on somebody to get their attention, right? My words, and still my words today. You don't have to do that. If you got to find other ways. That's it. For me, it's what not to do. And I don't care what you say, how people say it. Wrong is wrong, especially when someone is playing and will go through walls for you. And that's how we all were. We were all seeking his approval, right? You all were seeking coach approval. So that effects of him not going to class, being isolated, being alone, crying, all these things, like, man, get over that, man. It's all good. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Because who knows what played on after he left IU. And I remember having a couple of conversations after that. He just felt no one had his back. Right.
And that's sad. And I'm not putting that on. I'm not even putting that on Coach Knight or anybody else there, because it was not. It was not talked about. It's still. I'm not calling it a taboo subject, but it's still a difficult subject. But it definitely wasn't something that came out then. So
that's why, Jim, as I share,
very interesting to learn.
That's why I'm so positive, to be real with you. I mean, I'm not trying to say like it's an act. It's always in my head, man. It's always sunny. The forecast is always sunny because I've seen that. I saw the effects of that, right? And to have that example, if I'm going to coach, and again, great coach, but you have to find other ways to reach people. That's just my take. You got to find other ways to reach people. You got to find, you get upset, go punch something else, go hit something else, go do something. Right, but learn how to communicate and build up and edify people as much as you can, and that's why I am the way I am, because of what I saw. Being real with you,
I love it. Charlie Miller joining us as he does here each Monday. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Jim Reamer's going to join us. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda. Hey, Hoosier fans! Whether you're looking for a new that's great stuff to learn.
That's right.
Charlie, how did he take the day-to-day just coaching, even
the hard coach?
Yeah, just how did he take that day-to-day? Because, I mean, you got to know his father when he was at Indiana.
Yeah.
I got to know his father when he was at Bloomington South and spent some time with him on the road. And
well, Jim, go back to even before that, I got to know the family because, I got to know the family, and they were always around as much as, Dad could, because he was coaching with Floyd over at the University of New Orleans at the time.
I mean, I had to carry Terry
Mm-hmm.
into, I don't know, 3 or 4 different hotel rooms over the summers.
Yeah. When he's sick? When he got sick?
Drunk.
Oh, drunk.
And the stories on him, and this isn't something I'd want to.
Well, we're live on YouTube, so.
Are we? Well.
Yeah, well, the YouTube people can hear.
That's fine. And I'm not going to. The stories being talked about.
Some of these are already known, I think.
It is. And the stories talked about were pretty legendary. And, most of it's just how a father puts pressure on his son, how a father treats his son.
Yeah.
I don't, and how much that carries over from the court to the home.
Yeah, you know what, man? To share with you on that, I never saw that. And just my take, I never saw that. It was always, who knows what they were saying probably in private, but anytime they came in town, heck, we all lived together from our freshman year to our junior year when he transferred, and his mom and dad was always around.
And Terry's fun to spend time with, or he was, because it's basketball at that point. Right. I don't know. I never knew him, and I didn't have Neil's class, so I didn't coach him. But I didn't know Terry outside of times we spent of an evening on the road,
right?
With coaches and a few parents hanging out. And back then, the rules for the NCAA were different too. Sometimes college coaches could hang out with us, and sometimes that would mean Coach Felling and Coach Dockage, and it just became one big. I mean, again, that's how I got indoctrinated to all this stuff, and why I know some of the people that I know.
Right.
Plan for your future. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Monday. Brought to you by Andy Moore Honda. Jim Coyle with you. Charlie Miller, joined by Jim Reamer now. How is it, sir?
Whew. Well, me? How is it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's a week off, so I have a voice.
Nice.
Still spend all weekend at a gym watching, and was able to mix some of that in with Mother's Day yesterday. But no, it was a good week. We spent most of the weekend watching current freshmen, trying to get a handle on that class, at least within the state. And so that's where most of the time was spent between myself and one of our contributors. So I don't know, I saw maybe 3 guys that could relate to, eventually relate to the high major level. But that's what I did this past weekend.
How is the senior class? I know this has got to go through the process of everybody getting to where they're going through the portal and all that, but how badly is the senior class going to be affected by the COVID holdovers and the portal finding a place to go, a place appropriate to go?
Considering this is much of your audience is is it fair to say an Indiana University, an IU fan audience?
More so than anybody else.
Yeah, but my point there is a high major program. Probably not going to be as impactful on that level because those guys are going to get recruited, if not by Indiana or a Big Ten school, they're going to get recruited by another high major conference, or if not, then they're going to get recruited by the MAC, Missouri Valley. And it's tough. Those borderline kids, they could be, again, there's a couple of kids that have committed recently, and I said they could go to a high major school and end up transferring down in 2 years to a bigger role, or go to a mid-major and be really good for 2 years and transfer up because they want, in their mind, the better, the bigger challenge. It's the low major guys that are now getting squeezed out by transfers and programs that need immediate help because they've lost transfers, or programs in general that need immediate help because they think they're one piece away from stepping up to a higher level within their own conference. we had a lot of podcast episodes talking about how, COVID was going to impact recruiting, even before the transfer portal stuff became finalized. We probably tagged a dozen kids through the number of podcasts that we thought were impacted. But most of them were borderline D1 kids. A few of them were borderline. They probably could play their way up if they had, their way up the ladder, so to speak, maybe into a high major or mid-major league if they had a full summer of exposure. It's hard to really get too deep into it anecdotally without being able to also talk to coaches about it and who they liked going in and who they ended up going after and how the transfer portal impacted that. I I know some schools I'll get this point quickly. I know some schools that are going to probably turn about over 50% of their recruiting to the transfer portal the next couple of years, just to make sure they're at least on the ahead of the curve on how that plays out, and it might settle in to a more regular level. But I'd say the transfer portal the next 2 years is going to be a huge source of recruiting outside of your studs. Like a Jalen Washington from Indiana is going to get recruited by everybody regardless. Tay Davis obviously is already recruited to or already committed to Louisville. And, a kid like Braden Smith gets that Purdue offer. And while Purdue does check a lot of boxes, who's to say they couldn't end up with a transfer at the point that changes their disposition on, an offer made to Braden. So if I'm Braden Smith, heck yeah, I'd take that offer if it checks all the things that matter to you. So yeah, it'll be an ongoing deal for a couple of years.
He was a name too that was getting some attention. A lot of people were wondering if he was going to get an IU offer, right. But here it doesn't matter because maybe that, I don't know if that not forced, but spurred Purdue's hand. But I don't know that he was getting an IU offer, and it's not because he's not worthy of it. I think there's a timing aspect with this new coaching regime where exactly they are going philosophically and what they have currently. Charlie, you could speak to that way better than I can from a roster management standpoint of what they have coming. Man, I mean, Braden Smith is a great player, and it's probably going to be a 4-year player. But philosophies, timing have to match up.
Well, I think just on that regard, and we'll give it back to you, Jim Reamer, I think they may have a criteria now at IU to have players that are college ready, player ready, right? And we don't have time. We already got some freshmen who really, really still don't know who they are on the court. We need to get some guys in here, who could probably fill some spots and voids ASAP, right? And I think that's kind of the way I've seen this play out based upon who they've gone after up until this point.
And I'm always going to take the Indiana high school point of view probably over just flat out, an IU-centric perspective. Right. I thought Braden was, for most of this time, I've had Leland Walker ahead of him. Now I need to see Leland play this spring, and a lot of where I see his game going is going to be dictated by how much I think he can beat people over the top of ball screens, how he can force people to close out tight on him, which just makes his athleticism even more spectacular because he's exceedingly athletic. I don't know out-of-state kids who Indiana's going after.
Right.
So when we're doing this show, for me to say Indiana should offer Braden Smith, that just means I think he's good enough to play. That's you alluded to that, Jim. But I also don't really know a ton about the kids they've already offered and what they think their chances are. And if they've got 2 or 3 guys at that position they're prioritizing, there's no reason for them to change their tactics, especially if they feel like they're in good with 1 or 2 of them. And it might be for any reason other than just the fact that one of the assistants is buying into them a little deeper. Maybe they're bigger. There is a size factor with Braden that I think is legitimate, but I think he's big enough. But that's saying that Indiana should offer him. I don't know. I just thought he was good enough to be on a team in the Big Ten that won games and competed for the league. And that's kind of where I go with it when I say stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's true. And I just and maybe in a different year, it would have opened up for him. Unfortunately, like I said, I think timing and philosophy at this time is not wouldn't have allowed for that. And now Indiana moves forward. Jalen Washington is the guy that they are coveting, or along with a lot of other people. But that's the guy. I mean, that's the recruit that I would assume really love to land for a number of reasons, because that gets a guy from the north part of Indiana. You get an elite player, period, and you get a guy that he's going to be your linchpin. He's your Trace Jackson Davis type player.
Yeah, I mean, talent-wise, for sure. He hasn't had the impact yet on the court that Trace did at Center Grove. That'll come. He did play with a lot of seniors this year too, so he'll have a chance. I mean, it's going to be his team next year. This year was probably Kamari Peterson's team, who's a Division I point guard going to Indiana State. Next year is definitely going to be Jalen's team, and they lose a lot, and so he's going to be the centerpiece of that group. But going back to something Charlie said too about the freshman class, or this past group of freshmen in Indiana, I mean, they didn't have a normal offseason leading into college. I mean, normally these guys, by the time they start, are 2 months of conditioning and strength on campus, and then some of their own workouts that they do on their own. And then it's almost 2 months of individual and group workouts that they didn't get. And, so that's, and when you had the type of team that Indiana had, where they were going to probably look to play freshmen, especially as those guys were committing, you're thinking, this kid can give us this kid can give us that. And their roster was shaped up for 3 or 4 of those guys to contribute. Those are 3 or 4 guys coming in completely cold, at the beginning of November or whenever. I can't remember when practice started. I think it was the beginning of November. With not even the normal set of tools that a freshman would have to compete in college, let alone compete in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
We got to take a quick break. We'll wrap up the recruiting talk when we come back. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back with more right after this. Hey, Hoosier fans, whether you're looking for a new or you. Here's a fun clip for you, Charlie.
Hey, wait a minute, how are we doing, Brian? Wait a minute, how are we doing, Brian?
I play that over and over to Brian Evans. It's Evans. He's yelling at. I don't know what that clip was on YouTube or something. I saw that and started laughing. I'm like, oh my God, I recorded that and sent it to Brian. He just shook his head. What in the hell are we doing, Brian?
I had a clip like that this weekend. I always go into kind of like, somebody does something on the court, and I don't know. I don't say hell. I say something else, but I know what. I know where I heard it a lot from.
There are 3 kids this weekend that I saw. If you want to go that direction with the rest of the time here, I won't get too deep. One of them's a kid from Illinois, whose father played at Iowa. But then the other one's Jack Benter's, Bob Benter's son.
Bob Benter, the writer?
No, Bob Benter, the head coach at Brownstown. Benter. He's got a chance to be pretty nice. The 2024 class in Indiana is going to be challenging.
Wow.
Challenging as in not good?
Yeah, as in I'm not real sure what high majors I see out there just yet. Some of it is going to be dependent on growth. Benner's son's right there in the mix with that. Man,
they've been trending up so hard too. This 21 class is like last year, and this year is.
Oh, 21 was stellar. It was top heavy. I mean, it was top talent and very deep. 2022 has some good talent up top, but it's not as deep. 2023 may be the deepest of the current high school classes, but probably not as many definite high majors. You look at Jalen Hooks, at Crispus Attucks as being one kid that is definitely going to be that, going to be able to be successful at that level. And the rest of it's just kind of wait and see. 2021, I think we targeted probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 guys right away.
Wow.
That we're going to be able to play at the high major level, like when they were freshmen. And then you look at a couple of the ones
Different
that Butler
ages or
got.
dates. View spousal benefit estimates and more. Plan for your future. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
This segment is brought to you by Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Realty, Indie Home Pros.
Welcome back to the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda. On this Monday, Charlie Miller with us as always, Jim Reamer as well, talking some recruiting over the weekend. Not a lot going on this particular weekend. There was that All-Star game as well, though, at Lawrence North. I forgot about Jim.
Right.
Several of the All-Indiana All-Stars on that team. I was running way too much to see how that went. Did you even see that? I know you weren't there, but.
No, I mean, we're focused on young underclassmen at this stage, and
the talent, the development, what's coming next?
Well, yeah, that's the recruitment. Most of these seniors, as much as we talk about COVID, most of these seniors obviously are committed. So the recruiting side of it is more geared toward definitely, watching the AAU events and seeing the kids that are coming up. So.
What did we have go on over the weekend? It was a light weekend. There was actually a Rivals 150 football camp at Ben Davis High School, but there was still a little bit of AAU action up here.
There was the Adidas May Classic run by the Indiana Elite program. It's not like it used to be when it was one of the Adidas stops on their tour. A lot of that is shifted now toward open period events. But they still had a good selection of teams. I think their 2024 groups and their 2023 groups were pretty strong. 2022 teams were pretty light. So we spent most of our time this weekend watching 2024s, which are current freshmen. And it's not a strong class in Indiana. Some of the better kids that are on the better AAU teams or even out-of-state kids, but one of them is Cooper Cook. Cook or Coke or however you pronounce it, Koch, out of Peoria, Illinois. His father played at Iowa, and he's about 6'8" right now, and he looks like Logan Duncombe probably looked like at that age.
Wow.
And a kid that I think's got a chance to grow now. Obviously, if he continues to play on an Indiana AAU team, he'll be a guy we get a chance to see a lot of. If he changes over, I won't see much more of him after this month. But he was impressive this weekend, just his ability to run the floor, catching traffic, good feel around the rim, around the basket. Didn't really show an outside shot yet. I don't know if that is part of his game or if he's just, if it's just a function of the games they were playing where he basically did whatever he wanted in the painted area or, in the paint. Two other kids that I liked a lot this past weekend that I think could play their way into, being high major considerations. Jack Benner, who's Bob Benner's son. Bob Benner's the head coach at Brownstown Central. They've been extremely successful while he's been there. His son Jack is 6'4", outstanding shooter. Also a kid that's can put the ball on the floor and score. Now a lot of their schedule is against non-Division I talent. So he's still usually one of the bigger kids on the floor. He's a decent athlete. He's not going to be a great athlete, but he does actually jump pretty well. But what I like about him outside of his offensive skill, you look at him and you think he's a kid that has opportunity to really continue to grow and mature physically. He looks like a little kid out there facially, and he's his dad's about 6'7", so he's got some growing to do to catch up to dad. And if he can be a 6'7", 6'8", 3 who can shoot it and put the ball on the deck a little bit, and his body starts to change, then that's somebody to keep an eye on. And then Nitarian Tuggle, a point guard from Northwood High School up near South Bend, to Napanee, Indiana. I was impressed with him as any guard I've seen in a couple of years. Just his build. It's good. He's a strong kid. He's got good length. Plays the point. His shot is very quick, very efficient. Mechanics, gets it in and out quickly. And I also loved his decision making this weekend, and also his ability. He really took a lot of pressure, or a lot of pride on the defensive end of the floor. So those three kids were three guys I really liked, especially in the context of who might mature and develop into maybe high major prospect or borderline high major prospect. Those were the three kids I thought stood out the most, just of the teams we saw.
Charlie, these kids, what is it that, as a former player, someone who's been coached at the highest level, played at the highest level, what do you look for in these kids at this age to move them forward? When you're looking at them?
Hey, you stole a question to ask me. I was going to ask Jim. I really was looking at that same question because it's interesting. Because again, these players, and I say this respectively, these players are just playing basketball, right? Jim has a whole skill set of watching. He's seen talent for years and years, breaking it down. The potential, calling it, projecting, right? Not saying I got to be very accurate, right? Because it's all a projection. But again, like I said, I feel as a player, you're just playing basketball. Like, you're not thinking about analytics. You're not thinking about my stock. That was the word back in the day, my stock, where I'm going to fall, where I'm going to play. Those kids are just playing. I think the exposure is really high as far as what it takes to play at the Division I level, what players are doing. I think the trickle-down effect from the pros to the high majors as far as criteria, as far as attributes that a point guard has to have, and a pro style of play, right? I think what I'm hearing from Jim, some of these kids are standouts because they're that much better than everybody else, right? Is it a tribute to how much time they put in the gym? I don't know, right? But it just sounds like they're standouts. And that's just kind of what I'm hearing.
What you want to look for, Jim, and Charlie will know this as I talk through this because of how he works kids out. You definitely look for things that translate to a higher level. There was a kid this weekend who very highly touted that I was just okay on because I think he's an early maturing kid, although he is a point guard. So that's the size factor doesn't come into play. Sometimes you see these kids are like 6'2" power forwards when they're 13 years old. People love them. They have to get them. And they just quit developing physically through no fault of their own. It's puberty, it's, maturation. But, this was a kid that was sneaking a lot of shots just over the rim, a lot of extension scoring, things that obviously we're all teaching these kids to get used to doing. Right. You wonder how much of that is going to play versus a bigger audience versus a bigger competition if he isn't going to get any bigger. Right. I'll be shocked if this kid that I'm thinking of doesn't, if he continues to grow. It was an out-of-state kid. So, and maybe a kid that I won't see a ton of, and I could be wrong on him, completely wrong on him. He does shoot the ball well, though. So, but I look at motor. I look at things these guys can control. There's a kid at Pendleton Heights who's really thin right now. But, man, he runs the floor like a deer. He's got long arms. He has great hands in transition, great hands in traffic. When he rebounds, he's strong with it, even though he probably isn't physically very strong. I look at his name's Josiah Gustin. That's a kid that I look at as somebody who could develop and maybe pass up a lot of these kids right now that are more physically mature than he is at his position. And again, if he doesn't grow, then I'll be wrong. You just be a guy, but I look at Benner. The shooting tends to translate. The only issue there, Charlie, is how quickly can you get your shot off?
How quickly you get your shot off, right?
Yeah. Do your mechanics change based on distance? Do your mechanics change based on how you're being guarded? I think Benner gets to a point where that's a strong part of his game. And then the issue becomes, how much more does he grow? I mean, if he stops, then he's a 6'4" kid who has to be able to guard twos at a higher level. And whatever level he can do that is probably what level he plays at. But if he's 6'7", 6'8", maybe he gets taller than his dad and he can do those things. Now that the calculus kind of changes on what that kid's recruiting looks like and how he projects going forward. So,
well, thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that a lot to get that going. The rest of the AAU season really starts to pick up as we go forward. We're going to start having visits. What's coming up for you, Charlie, this week?
Man, we're getting ready to go on some vacation. I think Jim went to Chicago. You got a little R&R. So this week is, pretty exciting. I'm prepping my young ladies. Jim, I talked about this. We won the last 3 tournaments we played and we won. I'm very excited about that. But at the same time, the project we have this week is they're going to coach themselves in the tournament. I'm just going to have a parent. I'm going to have a parent just sit on the bench. I already told the parent, don't say a word. Just sit here.
Okay, I got.
So wait, your team's playing and you're not going to be there?
I'm not going to be there. I told them, hey, listen. Look, I say, hey, it's a project.
I would need lots of antacid.
I like it. I say,
it would not be a vacation.
I want y'all to go out here.
I guarantee you, I got money that says there's no way that parent says nothing.
Well, I'm hoping. But anyway, I have fun with them. But yeah, so we're going out of town this coming. So this training, we got projects we're doing, my wife and I, as we work together for like the last plus 11 years. So that's all I got going, man. Just looking forward to down to Florida, get my feet in the sand and do nothing.
I hear that, man. Well, I can't hope we can get some tape on this game next week to see. I want to see that parents sitting down. But Charlie, Jim, thank you for joining us, and look forward to doing this again next week because I know there's a lot more coming as it starts to progress. And Charlie, you as well. Congratulations on your success and keep it going, man. Have fun on your vacation. And will you be here next Monday?
Next Monday, I don't know. I shouldn't see why not, but if I'll let you know beforehand.
Okay, we'll check it. Perfect. But everybody else, I hope you go out. Make sure that you are wearing your mask. And until tomorrow,
Jim, he got some swag. He didn't show with this shit, man.
I forgot. Someone sent this stuff, Jim. It's crazy, man. But yeah, there you go. But do something nice for somebody. And until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Charlie.
Yep, appreciate it. See you guys.
Thank you.